In this video, we're going to cover forms. Forms actually comprise two separate kinds of tasks. The first task is to actually create the individual elements that the user sees in order to start the forms process, but the second half usually requires some programming to actually connect the forms to something in the server that will actually make the server do some work. A typical example of a form might be something like this. A contact form. And this has the different fields, first name, last field, an email, and then a comment form. And finally down here is a submit form. And the programming that's involved is quite complicated. First of all, there's the ability of the system to check to see that the starred items are actually filled in. If I were to press submit now without filling in any of the forms, it gives me an error. I have to fill in these fields, this field, and this field. Everything is required. So in order for me to continue, I would have to put in my name, my email, and a message. Press submit, and it gets sent. We're not going to get into the programming involved in making this happen. It's actually much more convenient for a non-programmer to use a service, and in this case I'm using a service called Wufoo, and I'll be showing you how to use Wufoo in your website. We're looking at the website w3schools.com, and they have a page on HTML forms and input. We're going to look, first of all, at the individual HTML elements that go into making a form. So we'll learn how to do it the old-fashioned way. Then we'll look at things from the perspective of Bootstrap. Since we're using Bootstrap, Bootstrap has its own kinds of form approaches. So to start creating a form, you use the form element. And the form element goes at the beginning, input elements go here, and then you close the form element with the close form. So for example, I want to input their first name and their last name. This is how this would work. I've created a new page on the server called form.html. If we look at this online, this is what we see. It's just I've taken out the text and the graphics and just left a footer. So here's the code for this, and we'll save it and view it here. First name, last name. So I could put in Michael Blanc, and there's my input. You can also input a password. Now, a password is different from a standard text form in that you don't want users to be able to see what you're typing in. So the password allows you to obscure the characters that are being typed in. So this is all well and good. I've shown you how to develop your website as far as creating the presentation elements and the fields for your form. But this is only getting us halfway. We need to find a way to get the information from the browser and get the server to act on it. And to do that, we're going to use a service called Wufoo. Now, in order to use Wufoo, Wufoo is free. You have to create an account. I've created an account, so I'm going to just log in. And I have one contact form This is the form that we looked at earlier in the video from generalexcentric.net. I'm going to create a new form and go from there. So to create a new form, we just click this button. You have within this free account 3 forms that you can create. If you want more, then you have to upgrade and pay money for it, but I've got 2 forms left. So let's click the New Form button, and right now I have a blank form. So we'll put in a name for this form. We'll call it Contact Form. We'll keep the description the way it is. Then we'll add a field. We'll add a single line, and we'll call it your name. And we'll save the form. Then we'll add another one, and we'll call this your email address. And then finally, we'll do that. We'll say your message to me. Now, we want all of these to be required, so I'm going to click on the options for each one of these. Required. Required. You can also predefine values. So you put in your name goes here. Send me a message. So we'll save that. So let's view this contact form. This is what it would look like. Oh, and one thing before I forget. Notifications. You need to set this up so that when the user clicks the Submit button, it can then send that information to an email address. So if you want the information from the contact form to be sent to a particular email address, you put that in here. In this case, you don't want it to reply back to the user who submitted the form. So let's save that. So when we want to actually put this into our website, you click the code and embed it. So there are different versions of the embed code. This is the one we want. JavaScript, copy that, and then we'll go to our form and we'll drop it in. And pretty it up a little bit. Okay, let's see if this actually works. I'll put my name here. And I'll submit it. And this should arrive in my email that I set up in Wufoo back when I created my account. So that's how to do forms in HTML and using the free service Wufoo.